Welcome to the Tim Castle Live Show, where we meet courageous people doing inspirational things around the world. Boy, have I got a podcast episode for you today. You are in for a treat. I've got Owen Sammarone, founder of Unleash the Knowledge, on the show today. And he's a phenomenal guy. He just goes through his daily routine. He goes through how he's built a business in the last 19 months, how he's taken it from nothing, an idea, a concept, to being one of the most successful content generation platforms in terms of what it gives to people and inspiring them across social media, and also talking to some of the biggest authors on the face of the planet, and just spreading the word around aspiration, about how you move forward, about how you take action. He really is an inspiration. I think you guys are going to get a lot from it. Like the way that Owen reflects upon his life and is able to move from a fixed mindset position into this place of growth mindset, and how he does that, how he comes and takes all the knowledge that he's got from the people he's meeting, the authors that he's exposed to, the books he's reading, and also his followers, as well as the lessons from his past lives, things that he's done in his career before. And he's taking all of that and he's helping himself accelerate towards his goals, his dreams, and his vision, whilst bringing people along with him on a journey. And that's really powerful. What really struck me with our conversation was just how aware Owen is of not being in a fixed mindset, of practicing his daily disciplines, and of taking his life to the next level bit by bit. And I think it's just getting into this flow that really is apparent, that you can see when Owen's talking, that he really has a strategy in terms of how he's going to apply the lessons he's learned from books, from people around him, from other jobs, from past lives, from things that he's done previously. And he's going to take it all. He's going to absorb. He's going to pull all this information in, and then he's going to put it out in the words of his message and serve other people. So without further ado, I want to introduce you to Owen. Take it away. All right. Well, thank you, Owen Sammarone, for joining, for coming on the podcast. Really appreciate it. Like it's an honor to have you on, and I've been following your work with Unleash the Knowledge for a number of years, and it's the way that it's moved forward, and the pace that I see, even in the last few months, just the speed at which it's going is just phenomenal. So you're putting out awesome content, and I truly believe in what you're doing. So thank you for coming on and having a chat.
Well, thank you, Tim. I mean, you definitely were an early adopter to the brand, and I dug this bad boy up, which is my keepsake of yours. But this was one of the first books that was sent my way for the brand. So I appreciate you and all your support so far, and obviously allowing me to be on your podcast. But the pleasure is mine.
Awesome. Thank you, Owen. Well, let's kick things off with my favorite first question that I ask everyone. What is your motto or mantra for life, and how do you apply it?
Sure. So, this is funny because on my podcast, I asked this question as well. And I try to gather all these insights from, best-selling authors like yourself and other people. But for me, currently, and for the past few years, it's truly, it's not just a quick phrase or a couple words, but it's really the idea that who you were yesterday is not who you need to be today. And your past does not define you. So that's something that, if you want to be something incredible tomorrow and today, you're not anywhere near that, you can take that step. You can do some sort of 1% action where it could get you there. But in my own life, who I was 6 years ago, or even back when I was in high school, is a completely 180 degree different person than I am today. So that's something that I try to resonate with on a daily basis, and try to tell others too, because it seems that most might think, in a fixed mindset degree, where they think, however today is how it's always going to be. But fortunately, that's not the case. And there's tons of success stories of people that have turned things around. And I'm trying to do the same with myself.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, I feel like we've been on a similar journey. There's that sort of time frame, even just 6 years ago, like who we were 6 years ago, the the pace at which you can change, but also just by making those small changes and just like you said, having that in your mindset every day, so you connect with your mission and your purpose every day, so that
Mhm.
you can make small changes that move you forward and just not having that fixed mindset. It's awesome. I love it. I love it.
For
So
sure. That's yeah. I mean, one piece I guess to add to that is simply um it doesn't need to be a big leap, and even just with my brand so far, I to me it was a daily action every single day for the past 15, 60 months. So to me it almost seems like this is what should have happened because I knew what I was doing, and I was striving towards this. But to others, when they just see the first glance, they're like, wow, this is incredible. So um I think that ties a bit into life itself too, where you might not see a buddy for a while and he might be 10 steps ahead or 10 steps behind, but it's that transition that can happen over time that could be substantial.
that's super important what you just said around the fact that it's not just looking at an event and thinking, oh wow, that just miraculously happened on that moment. It's about process and consistent daily action and having a strategy and just following the plan. Like you said, 15, 16 months of doing Unleash the Knowledge and moving it forward every day and just trying to push the boat out a little bit further, a little bit
Right.
further. It's got momentum, but it's you driving that every day, and you're having to have the discipline to come to the table and bring your best self to the table and give and serve your audience every day. And that's a reflection, man. That's a reflection in what you've managed to achieve and where I know this is going to go. So tell me a little bit about your game plan and I guess what did you conceive from the Unleash the Knowledge and how is it playing out?
Yeah, so it's funny because or quickly, my background is actually the past 6 years I was in college basketball. So I was taking this journey to be a coach or be in the executive office of a sports team professionally. And I started off doing the laundry as a manager, and then I rose myself to a position where I had more direction, and I was managing other people. And then when COVID hit, I decided to leave on my own terms, just for things of personal growth reasons, and then honestly to see where I could take this brand potentially, because it was already being built in the background. The daily discipline comes from wanting to provide value to the audience, and that's where maybe if I don't feel like doing it so one day or not, but it's actually to provide some contents or some knowledge towards the viewer to give them what they want on a daily basis.
That's brilliant, mate. Yeah, that's I can see that shining through in your work. Are there any areas, I guess, of your life and where do you find inspiration to keep going? Because what you mentioned there was when you don't want to do it. And I know like that happens, right? That's the reality. Like we show up, we want to get in the zone, but there are days when it's a struggle and it's harder. How do you find your inspiration and where do you take your cues from?
Yeah, it's a big question. I like, again, a lot comes back to the basketball background, and I was under a direction of Coach Hurley, who you know came from a good family in basketball, but pretty much made the life that he's living today. And for my own humble beginnings that I've been through, I've simply kind of find the inspiration just within myself of um, I don't know if this sounds dark in a sense, but it's the idea that you can't quite go backwards. Like you where you are is where you are. And if I stop today, essentially, this could where I could plateau at currently, and it could be okay. I mean, I'm sure, and obviously, I've been gifted with where I live, and many other strengths here and there. But essentially, I think we're fixated too much on this wild lifestyle of running a billion-dollar company or so, or living, traveling the world. But um, for the most part, most people could probably survive with just what they need. So from there, I'm always fortunate for what I have is probably the best way, and that's kind of how I stay inspired to keep going and be thankful for what I do have. And of course, reading books and listening to podcasts and talking to really bright individuals is always inspiring to hear their stories, and especially hearing people that might have had tough cards dealt to them than maybe I have. So then it gets you thinking, why am I being a bum, or getting upset with myself for not wanting to work so hard when someone has to work twice as hard as me? And whether you're in another country or a different gender from what we're seeing in the United States, where a lot of people are speaking up far more than they ever have before. And I think it's fantastic. And personally, I think social media is helping in the good way where you can get your word out, to the masses in a much easier way. But yeah, inspiration comes from many different ways. But personally, at the end of the day, I think it's simply it's an internal thing for me. It's seeing where I've been, like I said, with my mantra, and seeing where I could potentially go. And if I've done that jump for 5 or 6 years, who knows where I could be in the next 5 to 6 years. So that kind of gets me excited and gets me curious and makes me want to keep going.
That's awesome. So do you plan out like the next year, the next quarter, the next month, or is it that you get so pumped and excited about, right, in 6 years, who knows where we can take this? Let's think about what the potential could be. And is it just the potential that gets you excited, or is it quite like planned out?
Yeah, good question. This might be because of my age currently, or my young energy potentially, but I'm growing as a planner. I'll say that. I definitely like to be. I like to just go. For the most part. A lot of the content you might see is just me testing things out. Even like my podcast, which is very low scale, and it started off as IG lives during quarantine, simply because I just thought, let me do this. I'm stuck at home. Like, we'll see what happens. And like I said before, too, it's funny how doing that has created more connections and relationships than some other things I've done in my life. So, by all means, I am an advocate for planning. I do set goals 100%. I think strategic planning as far as business growth versus personal growth and goal setting might be two separate things. So, if we want to break that up, I'm definitely more inclined on the personal side to set goals. I have an accountability group with a couple guys. I I have yearly goals, I have weekly goals, and then I have my daily to-do list that I'm hoping to get done, which always seems to grow more before I get to the end of the day. But other than that, I do think setting goals is important. But in terms of a business standpoint or a content standpoint, I just kind of run with the times most of the time and really try to get things out that might be trending or might be popular. But not really saying that's the right approach, but just kind of what I've been doing so far.
It sounds super entrepreneurial. I resonate deeply with how you're saying you almost stay in motion, because just by being in motion and having that momentum and by taking action rather than kind of overthinking and over planning each
Hmm.
move, you actually discover more. And just like you were saying with your podcast, like that's been a way to connect and is 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 serving your message. But it maybe wouldn't have been something that you just discovered if you hadn't have been in the plan, right? If you didn't take action, maybe it would have never got done, and then all those connections would never have been made, and all that gift that you're giving to the world would never have been served. So it's it's super cool to hear how you just explained that. And I think that helps people really, because a lot of the time I think some people, especially for myself, they come because they want to understand how they get over the hump of their fears, right? And
Hmm.
they've got all these ideas, but they're stuck between, and I think it's the thinking that stops the
Hmm.
action. And then the way you just explained it is exactly the energy and the joy that I think that people can take a lot from, because if they just connect with that and they stay in that process of taking action, they'll move forward and they'll get those results.
Yeah, and I almost think, for like I haven't worked in corporate America, thankfully so far. But I worked in basketball where there's many, long meetings, and I think that's where something many people can attest can relate to, these long meetings with no direction and wasted time,
Mm.
and then there's no result afterwards. So it's almost, and I guess the startup world is works in this way, which is kind of, I guess, where I've been getting some inspiration from. But it's more so do and then analyze. And but I mean, the action of doing is not changing the company 180 degrees. It's try this one thing, try this one variation, see how it goes, but just get it out and then analyze it. Unfortunately, I mean, I think that a lot of companies probably, from a corporate standpoint, they spend a lot of time in the boardroom planning, and I've learned this through podcasts as well, with like a company like Spotify and their founder, and he works in a very interesting way. But a lot of these meetings do seem to be just planning and no execution. So it's almost best just to kind of go out and do it. just see what happens, and then you can reassess from there.
That's amazing. Yeah, that is like the entrepreneurial. What's the most, I guess, radical way you've seen it be done?
Um, that's a good question. I don't know if I could pinpoint an exact example, but I think it might just be I can't remember where it's from, but I do know one startup or one company, they have an idea where you have your main job, your main mission, the main task that you're working on for the business, but then they also encourage these passion projects or these side projects during that same time. So it's you know get what you need to get done while you're here, while you're getting paid, and get this business to keep scaling and moving forward, but be creative and work on something that might be related to that main task on the side.
Mm,
um, and do that. Actually, I think it's coming to me now, but it's the authors of Rework, um, a great management book. Jason Fried, I believe, is one of the authors, and they own a company called Basecamp, which
mhm,
is, I believe, a software programming service, but they're fully remote. And he talks about not setting goals, which is an interesting standpoint, which talks a bit about what we just said. And then two, he says something along the lines that our projects are only like 6 weeks long. Like that's it. It's start to finish. If they can't get it done or they can't get to a point where this is a tangible product or service that we could push out to market or send to a client, then it's over. So they work in these short bursts, and I think that's interesting because I think you can spend a year or two on the same idea, and then it could tank one day, and then what did you really learn from that? It's could be a lot of wasted time. So that different approach. It might be the new era of working, but it might stick. We'll see.
yeah, I really like that. That's like spinning the plates, just having a number of different strategies going, not even at once, but just being short and focused and going, did this work? Did this not? And if it didn't, you haven't invested too much. But if it did, the upside is just huge because you hit a home run and you can just take it all the way. And you're not totally bought in that you took like 4 or 5 years to get to that point. Yeah, that's awesome. So
Yeah,
yeah,
creativity I think needs to be a focal point to people's work. Obviously I'm in a space where I'm trying to make reading cool again. I'm trying to make books cool, and I'm trying to target the 18 to 34-year-old gap, primarily people that are coming out of high school, entering college, getting out of college, trying to figure out what they're going to do in life, and pretty much extracting the big ideas and big takeaways from these books so that they can digest it in a quick manner, so they don't have to necessarily spend a load of time actually digesting it themselves, because many of these books have one or two big takeaways that can really change your life. So maybe expediting that process. But yeah, I think creativity is a big piece, and that might be a partial reason why I might have ended up leaving basketball, because I couldn't quite be as creative as I might have thought I could be. And Unleash the Knowledge has definitely allowed me to have that outlet, and thankfully other people enjoy it, so I could keep going.
so what's been the coolest thing that's happened so far because of Unleash the Knowledge?
Oof. You know, just really the idea of being able to reach so many people in such a quick, efficient manner. And, of course, it's a global audience, um, just from people interacting left and right whenever they might find it. And really just the idea of leveraging social media, because unfortunately, social media, it could have a negative connotation to it. And many people, I mean, by all means, it could be a rabbit hole that you could get lost in for hours. But I always try to tell people, okay, it's okay to have the fun videos and the kids maybe jumping off a porch, breaking a table or so, but have 5% of your feed be something educational, something book driven, or something motivational or inspirational, or so something like that. But I guess keeping that in mind, more people have added it to their feed, hopefully, and from there, I've been able to grow. But yeah, primarily just being able to connect with so many people through DMs and email, and I think that's probably the most fascinating idea. And I mean, again, I am a younger guy, so I didn't live too much of my life in my teens or 20s where it was pre-social media, or pre-iPhones, for that to say. But I think it's at least allowing people to get their messages out at an effective rate, and also being able to connect with like-minded people. And that's essentially why I've been building Unleash the Knowledge, to find more people in my community who are similar to me.
So So talk to us about your career path then. You say you're a younger guy, but when did you have the idea for Unleash the Knowledge? And so when did it all start and what were you doing before? I know you mentioned basketball a couple of times.
Yeah, so I started Unleash the Knowledge in September of 2019, 15, 16 months ago. And I was entering my second season at the University of Connecticut for, being with basketball, which was now my last season. And I was actually finishing my grad degree to get my master's in financial risk management. So going to University of Connecticut, which was, graduate school, I was able to kill two birds with one stone, and sort of speak, where I had a full-time job and also had a full-time degree. And I was under scholarship, which was an absolute blessing for
Boom.
me to gain. Yeah, so that's how it started. And it really started with the idea that, I've always been a very outgoing person, extrovert, and been able to make a lot of friends. But I found myself in a place where most of my friends were okay with the 9 to 5 cubicle life for 40 years. And by all means, I'm not saying that's no way to live. I mean, obviously we need people to do that job for their lifetime to make things move. But at least at the current, in the last 6 years for me, I've realized that I'm definitely, a different type of person, maybe, more of an innovator, more of a visionary, someone that could just kind of take nothing and potentially build it into something. So that was one of the pillars that made me push this idea. And second is what I alluded to a bit, is to really connect with other people and like-minded people that were lifelong learners, avid readers, you know, didn't want the status quo, wanted something much better for themselves, and they wanted to grow personally to, whatever their optimal potential is. So yeah, but September really kicked it off, and I pretty much, just really I kept it under covers for, my inner circle and the people I worked with for a good 6 months. And that's probably when I started showing my face in front of the brand as well at that point, which was probably when COVID hit in March. And then
Mm.
I headed home, and then I pretty much just went all in. And that's when I've now we're on a couple platforms, and this upcoming year, I'm hoping to. I got a couple people helping me. That's why I speak in a third person tone. But I'm hoping to grow the email list. The email is a focus of mine, like I kind of said a bit before, where I'm hoping to, take a book, and by all means, I want to promote learning and I want people to sit down and read a book. But unfortunately, I do know the world we're living in, and I do know my audience of 18-year-olds to, you know, mid 30s, where they don't have the time necessarily and they need the information quick. And that's what social media is for all of us, this quick dose of dopamine to get us excited and then move us on with our day. So I'm hoping to capture that same, system to some degree, but make it educational and make it around books. So emails a focus, and then moving forward to, I'm thinking about YouTube as well. I know it's a big undertaking, but it's the second largest search engine owned by Google. Second largest behind Google. So it might be worth my time to invest in there, but I do know it's quite a project. So we'll
Uh,
see. But yeah.
I think so. I think you've got it in you. I think it's still under it's still under prime. Like if you're putting out the content you do on social and you take that to YouTube, you'll kill it because your content is really high quality and there's always room for quality. Like at the end of the day on YouTube, it's still there's so much junk and the top
Mhm.
there on YouTube, there's so much room at the top, and that's where you'll be, man. So you say on your website, books serve as the gateway to our wildest dreams. I love that because it it's a conversation with with that mind. What are your, I guess, go-to books? What do you reread? What are you into at the moment?
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, I say that because it's a simple 15, $20 purchase where you can, extract some of the greatest ideas and experiences from someone who, has potentially lived it their whole lifetime, or have spent a good chunk of their life figuring out what it is, and how to, analyze it. Some of my top books that I love that really sparked my interest is, well, number one is The Third Door by Alex Banayan.
Mm.
And that book was great for me because it actually validated what I was already doing. I was already living this lifestyle where I was sending emails to the New York Knicks when I was a freshman in college, hoping to get a job because I wanted to work for my NBA, the top premier team. Well, not premier in terms of record, but as far as legacy, they certainly are. And that book was fantastic, and it reads like a journey. So it's nonfiction, but it reads like a story to some degree, so you could follow along, almost like a screenplay to a movie. Um, and then some other books like Rich Dad Poor Dad obviously was a helpful book for me. I know it's thrown around a lot, but it is helpful in terms of financial literacy and also understanding the benefits of owning a business and not being an employee. And then to understand those two pieces and really the idea that everyone, I think, it's one thing to work hard, but it's another to work smart. And you could work hard, like the custodian is going to work till the day he dies, probably making a very low wage, and he could be the hardest worker in the room, but unfortunately he probably won't be able to reap all the benefits of what life can offer him because he doesn't quite know how to work smarter or use that vehicle to do maybe some other things. And personally, I think those the most successful people in terms of financial levels aren't really the brightest intelligently, but they just kind of know how to operate and how to manage their time and how to spread or leverage different pieces. But Rich Dad Poor Dad's a good one. And I read Limitless by Jim Quick this year. I actually had the pleasure of interviewing Jim too, and that book was pretty interesting. The idea of speed reading
Mhm.
hasn't really been explored too much, at least in a popular pop culture kind of way. So I guess Jim kind of took that for him and his brand. But that just speaks more to kind of this mission of mine with Unleash the Knowledge to get more knowledge and more learning out in the world in a very quicker fashion where you don't have to waste too much time. And I, the whole mission behind that is really to take more action. So gain the knowledge quicker and then actually put the time in the day to actually make it happen for yourself, um, rather than spending the day consuming the knowledge, because that could obviously take a while. And the Daily Stoic by Ryan Holiday is something I read on a daily basis. I'm definitely not 100% a Stoic. I I value some of the principles, but I'm not some stone-faced individual with limited emotion and always thinking about my death. But I do keep that in mind that you never know, when that day will come. So live your life to the fullest and try to make as big of an impact as you can. Um, and then just, I guess, to cap it off, Robin Sharma is one of my favorite authors. The reason why I really like him, and it's something that I might model myself after in terms of writing, is he speaks on nonfiction principles, but he puts them into a fiction book. And it just reads so smoothly. It reads like a very engaging story. I mean, fiction's fantastic by all means, but the way he writes is like this perfect blend between fiction and nonfiction. So you can still get 8 to 10 takeaways of how you could actually apply in your real life, but you learn them through this amazing storyline. So I think it's a very unique mixture between the two. But I'm a big fan of his work, and I think he has a new book coming out this spring. So excited for that one.
That's amazing. So many questions just off the back of that then. Um, Benayan, Alex Benayan, what was your
Yep.
favorite story from the third door? And then second question was around quick and essentially when you're taking action, do you see a lot of people who are reading and just consuming and
Hmm.
not actually implementing and
Hmm.
that's something that you see?
Yeah. So to the first question, honestly, it's right off the bat in the story where I still don't really believe it, to be honest, but how he hacked The Price is Right, and he was able to not only hack it, get on the show, but then he won it all, and he won the full prize. And I've been watching The Price is Right since I was a kid with my grandmother. I don't know if it gets aired globally, but it's obviously a big show in the States.
Yeah.
And I've always wanted to be on it too. So, I that was very fascinating to me that he was able to accomplish all that and then sell all of his winnings to then fund this journey that he is essentially the book. And then but as far as one of the stories within the book, um, so many of them are great. The Bill Gates one was interesting because he talks about how he's walking towards his office, and I believe it's just corridors of books, he's walking down the corridor, and there's just books on both ends,
Mm.
and he would I think he grabbed one of them, and they're not new, like they're not bookstore books. They're actually folded and written in it, and there's markings in the margin. So it's just like I mean, that's truly amazing that you just enter this library of Bill Gates and they're all read books, or at least he read a chapter, he's gained something and he's marked his stuff. Like if you were to grab one of these, you'd find the same. So that was pretty inspiring to know that. Um, and then to Jim Quick, you know, to be completely transparent, in my like day to day, in my physical life to some degree, like when I interact with my friends around here, not too many of them are big readers. To be completely honest, that's where I'm trying to push that towards them. But in the digital space, through Unleash the Knowledge and a couple other pages, I guess you can get some idea that maybe people are more infatuated with the idea of a book or reading a book versus implementing it. And yeah, I mean, to be honest, I haven't put too much time towards thinking about that. I mean, by all means, I'd like to think that people are reading to extract the information and to apply it into their life. Otherwise, it's just ink on paper. But I guess everyone has their own interest in that regard. But yeah, I mean, there's the discussion about, oh, I read 100 books this year. Like I have all this praise versus I read 20 books, but that person that read the 20 books actually applied all the lessons from those 20 books versus the person just read the 100. So I read 60 last year and I'm looking to read another 60 this year. Me personally, I'm in a space where I am trying. I mean, I apply a good deal of what I learn, but I'm also in a space young enough where I have the energy, I believe, to consume, consume, consume. And that's, I'm interested in that as well, to really from like a biography standpoint, which I actually posted about today. Like when you learn about a biography or when you read a biography, it's less about copying their lifestyle because everyone is different, but it's, oh, this Richard Branson did this at this age. That's pretty interesting. So those are kind of tidbits too you can gain from books. But then of course there's books that are very action based, and those I always strive to implement.
Amazing. So you're in a stage where you're feeding, and then sparking interest, sparking and throwing it back out to the world. So you 60 books. So talk us through your through your morning, through your day. How does that look?
Yeah, so the morning currently, again, fully transparent. I like to be authentic in a sense that my mornings have been struggling the past few months, and I think it stems from getting sick. So I told you prior to launching the episode that I did unfortunately catch the illness of COVID, but it wasn't anywhere near what you see on the news. It was just it felt like a cold. But I think since then it's kind of put me in a bad spot. But I'll share my morning routine on a perfect day when things are going smoothly. But I try to rise. 7 a.m. is a good point for me personally. I've always been a night crawler, so the whole journey of the 5 a.m. club from Robin Sharma and learning about the morning routines of the most high performing athletes and entertainers or business people in the world has been a massive learning opportunity for me because I've always, for whatever reason, I work through the night, or I did growing up in school, high school, and then in college as well. So I am transitioning to a morning person. But right now, I rise at 7, and then I like to meditate for 10 minutes. Have at least 2 cups of coffee always end up being had before within like an hour or so of waking up. Um,
Which
I am very.
Robin advocates the coffee. He's good with the caffeine hit. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. I am a active person in terms of weightlifting and being active in basketball or running or so. So don't have an exact regiment where I'm always working out in the morning. I try to work out daily. That's the goal. But sometimes it happens in the morning and sometimes it happens later in the afternoon. But I do know that there's tons of research, and Robin makes it known that working out first thing in the morning is one of the best things you could do, or getting a sweat in the first 15 minutes can be very beneficial. So I do need to do more of that. But
2020.
yep, exactly. And then other than that, it's some daily reading. It's when I do read the Daily Stoic, when I read the passage of the day, I do combine that with some journaling. Um, and then a couple other pieces consist of course, posting on Unleashed to Knowledge. I consider that one of my morning routine pieces, and then I cap it off with I mean, other than the necessary shower and teeth brushing and things like that and having breakfast. But the one piece I do cap it off with is something I do at night where I write three things I'm grateful for, three future accomplishments, and then I try to recap the day to the best of my knowledge the night prior. And then when I rise, the last thing I do is review that sheet of paper. So it's just a one sheeter. It's just a boom boom, bullet point deal. Three things I'm grateful for. Three, future accomplishments that could be done tomorrow or could be done in 10 years, 20 years or so. It's a wide range of things, but it allows me just to be very broad thinking and big out of box thinking. And then the recap is a memory thing for me to see if I can even remember what happened in that day, because of course many things could come our way that derail our plan. But yeah, that's a practice. That's most of the morning aspects that I try to accomplish each day.
Wow, that is amazing morning routine. What benefits have you seen play out because of that? Because one that I can just see straight away is the fact that you're recapping, you're setting your intentions in the evening, but also the morning. But the fact that your brain, when you're looking at that information before the end of the day, and you're putting in that gratitude, and your brain's going to
Mhm.
continue, then you're going to pick up from where you left off the next day, and you're going to start to get those gains. I can see that how that plays out, but that is a well structured morning routine.
Actually, yeah, one thing I just forgot, I don't know if I mentioned it, but I do meditate for 10 to 15 minutes as
Mm.
well. Um, Last year, I had a goal to hit 100 days in a row, which, it's just fun goals to set for myself. But personally, meditating should not be, a competition. It could be simply just sitting there in silence for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and just relaxing. I do use a guided meditation. I use the Calm app, but this year I do have a goal to meditate for at least 250 days out of the 365. Nothing consistent, consecutive, just 250 out of the 365. And from there, I've seen the most dividends get paid with meditation. And in terms of just, you know, when things could go sideways, just taking a deep breath and either biting your tongue or counting to five or so, just relaxing a bit and not taking that jump. But
Do you
yeah,
see
sorry, I
that,
think
do you
go
see
ahead.
that meaning that you've got more control over the emotions in terms of like reactivity when things then happen in your day later on? Or is it that the meditation is being done at a point where you feel stressed?
No, it's the former. So the meditation is done in the morning on a regular basis, and then when things can arise that could be challenging, then it kind of kicks in, or it kept me calm throughout the whole day. Where once some event happens, I can slow my roll a little bit, or you know jump away from where I might have previously acted. Um, but yeah, I think I might have missed your one of the other questions of that part before I said the meditation. Sorry.
I was just trying to get at like having such a well-defined and practically someone that can actually operate at that level means you're operating at high performance. You're able to get multiple benefits, and that's amazing. I was just really wanting to uncover how you've seen your day flow from there, because it sounds to me like you're setting up
Mm.
success every day, and you're practicing consistency, which is hard, but at the same time, does it get easier? Is it something that then, because you see the results in your day and they're so superior, so much more beneficial, that it makes you go, no, I've got to do this because the output is so good? Or is it challenging? Like what keeps you going to be able to do that within your day? That's what I'm trying to understand, is because that is the morning routine that you've just outlined is something that someone listening could really take, implement, and run with. And I'm just thinking the next piece would be sticking with it.
Yeah, I think the structure is the biggest part. And days when I do slip with the morning wake up at 7 a.m., which like I alluded to have been happening recently due to getting sick, you feel a complete change in your body. You might get irritable. You might, slip into ways prior before you maybe the meditation was a daily practice. But it's the structure I think that definitely has helped me. It's the, you know, like Robin says with the 20-20-20 formula, like you don't do the second 20-20 piece first, or you don't do it last. It's the structure flow of the one to down to the third item. And for me, in the same way, I also like I just listed all the things I do, but there is a structure, and I said the last one is read the review of the day. So I think it's those pieces of doing them in line that keeps me grounded. And when that slips and when I don't hit that, there's definitely a change in mood and direction. But yeah, I think it's just a matter of starting small too. Like what I just listed off is, you can take one of those pieces and still feel a change in your life. I just listed off 6 or 7 or maybe 8. I don't believe anyone should take that right away from never doing anything, but it's 1 or 2 that you could take and implement and then build upon that over and over again. And then one other piece I did want to include too is, and I think I learned it from Hal Elrod from the Miracle Morning, which another book I've been trying. Again, I've been on this exploration about the morning routine because I'm such a night crawler, by nature, and I've been trying to transition. And he said, I think it was him who said it, but the last thing you think is the first last thing you think before you go to bed is the first thing you think when you arise. So he has this way through his structure, the savers method, is to literally voice out loud and say, I'm going to wake up at 6 a.m. That gives me 9 hours of sleep. I'm going to bed at, you know, whatever that is, 10:30, and I'm going to rise at this time and I'm going to get this amount of sleep. By saying that, and I actually I went through that process, a year ago or so, and it definitely worked. And it's so interesting to think about that. And unfortunately, and I don't know if you've been through this too, but I certainly have. If you get into an argument or something negative happens towards the end of the day and you go to sleep on that, you wake up feeling crappy. You wake up, not feeling your best. So that I think is why I also decide to do the three gratefuls, three future accomplishments, because that's the last thing I think about. I think about 3 good things, 3 exciting things that might spark some dreams potentially as I put my head to rest, and then I wake up and I try to attack the day. But um, yeah, I think that's important. The last thing you do is certainly what the first thing you think of. So be mindful.
Couldn't say it better myself. Like I, as a writer, like sometimes I will have moments of inspiration that do form in the dream state, and sometimes you kind of wake up out of REM sleep and you've got all of this inspiration and it's bubbling over, and you just have to get up and write because you know that the goal is there. Like you know that this is absolute gold and you've got to get it down. Does that ever happen? I guess with you having unleashed the knowledge and you being so much in the momentum and in the flow and talking to all these inspirational authors and reading and just absorbing all this content and putting out your own content, like do you ever get those bubbles of inspiration where you just have to get out and get it down?
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of them, whether it's unleash the knowledge related or just a thought in general, they do come at night. And back to Jim Quick, he talks about leaving a notebook next to your bedside because the best ideas come at 3 a.m. And
Mm.
that could not be more than true. And there's been times where I've thought of something and I thought was spectacular, and I was almost too lazy, or I almost didn't want to disrupt my sleep to an extent that I didn't want to get up and write it in my phone or write it on a piece of paper. uh, I it's gone, and then, it's like you never get it back. It's such an interesting human phenomenon about our mind and when we're looking to sleep. But yeah, I by all means have moments where random things, I'll notice something or something will happen, and I'll think us, just put 2 and 2 together. Now, these aren't thoughts of the next iPhone, but they're ways that I could just improve my life and ways I can, do something better. I wish I could think of something right now that happened, but they do happen rarely often. I mean, at
And you've got
least
to
once a
grab them.
week, a couple times a week.
Yeah, and you've got to grab. You're right. Like if you are too lazy or you're loving your sleep or you're so into it, and then you have that thought and you know it's good, you can feel it almost in your heart or your soul, or something's telling you that's a good one. It is such a bummer when you think you rely too much on, no, this is so good, I'm going to remember it in the morning or the next moment, and then it's gone and you're like, what do I do? Because it was, you know that the next like buses, it will come again. You know that something else
Right.
again, but it is almost just like if you can start mining those bits of gold and those opportunities to like you said, to take something further, or just using the Alex Benign framework to be able to go in through the third door. They are the
Hmm.
breakthroughs you essentially are talking about. What then do you think is the biggest single, well, if there was one most single biggest driver of success, what do you think that would be? If you could put your finger on it.
Consistency,
Right.
100%. That's the number one thing I've ever seen. It, in basketball, when you're getting crushed and you're losing, the only thing that's gonna get you out of that rut is to keep on your daily process of what you like, trust your process and keep doing exactly what you think is the correct way, and doing it on a daily basis. And when I'm on this journey of learning about successful entrepreneurs and people that have shake the earth a bit with their artistry, whatever it may be, they've all failed in some way and they've all persevered. So one of my values, I like to think, is perseverance. It's the idea to, when things have gone tough for me, a pause might have happened, which is human. I think that's just a reflection point. But I've always kept going and taken that next step, and took the next step forward to keep going. But yeah, the consistency is powerful. I mean, essentially, I like to think that anyone could be anyone, anything, accomplish anything that you have an interest in, if you can do it every single day. And and the best mesh that I'm finding with Unleash the Knowledge is when you love it or when you really enjoy it, it just comes natural. And whether, you being a writer, when you might have hit roadblocks or writing blocks, you essentially get back on your horse and you keep writing because you love it, or you're writing about the topics that you are so true to you. And for me, when I almost experienced burnout to some degree in basketball, I felt I had to have a reflection period on myself for a moment, and that came to terms that maybe this wasn't for me, or maybe it wasn't the exact place where I can reach my most optimal level of success. So that's why I ultimately decided to leave. um, and then I guess it's just a matter of, some people never leave, or they just decide to stick with it and they think it's going to get better. But I mean, I think we could probably agree that it probably won't after some time, if it's still rough for you. But yeah, consistency is very important. It's a daily effort every single day.
So what happened with the basketball, and what were some of the signs that you knew it was time to move on?
Yeah, so the biggest piece was, and I'm glad I realized this, is I thought long term, and I thought where this could go. One of the seven habits of highly successful people is having the end in mind. So I took this wide view and thought, okay, I'm a young 20-year-old in this business. Where could this go? And fortunately, in that business, you get a very close relationship with the coaches who are living this lifestyle, and they're much older than you. They're 40, 50, 60 years old. So you can see firsthand where this life is going. And it's a great industry. It's sports, it's college basketball in America. Like, it's one of the most premier things that people watch. But it takes a price, and it's a lot of sacrifice. It's a lot of time away from family. Your health can potentially decline. It's also cutthroat to a high degree, where you can work your butt off every single day, and one day it could be the end of it, or at that school, and you got to go find what the next thing is. But the main piece that kind of pushed me away is I felt like I wasn't going to be in control if I kept going. I was in a place where I felt that no matter how far I went, you know, I guess I saw enough of decisions outside of my own team, because the direction of my team was fantastic. But when you're in that world, you see what other teams are doing and what other industry, what other things are happening, and I guess it just wasn't a place for me that I thought would be beneficial for me to be the best I could be. And then back to the first point I made before, is I just felt that whatever I do, whether that's running Unleash the Knowledge or being a writer myself, or doing something, it's going to be a creative outlet. And I just knew I couldn't necessarily express that full ability in basketball. So I decided to leave, and yeah, I mean, it was a fantastic run. I had an absolute blessing. 6 years. We were champions twice, and I have two rings from it, luckily. So I've been able to have firsthand experience of what it takes to be essentially a college basketball champion, and what that daily effort looks like. And that's why consistency is definitely the number one pillar to run with. and it's the hardest.
Yeah, yeah. So you're applying the lessons that you learned from basketball, from being a successful team to your daily life now, and actually to your business. Where do you see yourself then in the next 5 years?
Yeah, next 5 years. I like to think Unleash the Knowledge will still be around. That's the first hope. But I'm currently transitioning, or not transitioning, but branching the business and brand out to a website where it's going to be more of a forum based, where I think there's going to be more community and more communication. So, if Unleash the Knowledge ends up just being a place where people can interact with one another and get strong, educational book bites or whatever that may be, then so be it. I think that could be its mission and its core. I mean, I don't necessarily see it turning into something that is a multi-million dollar business with you know looking at their the people that are interacting with the content as dollar signs. I don't want that whatsoever. I want it almost as just a hub for learning where people can come and go and extract some information. But other than that, 5 years. So I'll be approaching 30 at that point. Well, actually, I will be 30, and I'd like to have a book out. That's one of the main goals. I think um, I have plans. I have audacious goals to be a New York Times bestseller, or at least less about the title, but more about less about that achievement label, but more about just getting the book actually into tons of people's hands.
Mhm.
And I think I have a unique background with the basketball and with the brand now, and even with the idea that I didn't even have much of a basketball upbringing growing up, other than just playing with buddies, as any kids would, and being able to reach the level that I did. So that's interesting. So I might explore that a bit. But I don't know. Other than that, hopefully to be a little bit physically more fit and have more books under my belt, and just continue connecting with people. I I have a couple, I guess. My one major goal in life is, which is funny to say at this current moment in my life, is that on the deathbed, I want to say that I did it all and I did it my way. So I can't see my life being just one thing, just a corporate executive, just a basketball coach. Maybe it could be a speaker, a writer, an entrepreneur, a friend, all these millions of things. Maybe who knows, like an actor, just some wild profession. Even if it's just one gig, one sliver, I could say that I did that. That's kind of my mission in life, to try as much as I can and be able to share all about it.
I did it all and I did it my way. Wow. Yeah, that's super
It's
powerful.
powerful.
Yeah, it is. It is. And then the forum, then it could take place more like Millionaire Fastlane comes to mind, and MJ DeMarco, that type of. He's obviously, um, he's great. Like in terms of the way I'm sure you've read that book, and
Yep.
um, yeah, just phenomenal the way he's kind of built different businesses and thought about things in a different way. And it sounds to me like you're going down a similar track and wanting to bring your best self to every area that you potentially could do.
Yeah, that's actually a great example. I have more inspiration of what I'm doing off of Bigger Pockets. I don't know if you've checked out them, the real estate company, but they've written tons of books, and they're I think they're like the number one real estate education platform. So that I just found it interesting, a free platform where you can learn and be able to get a lot of information. But yeah, I love the Millionaire Fastlane. I actually do need to revisit that book. Um, Definitely a great mindset shift to figure out what lane you're in. And I have surfed his site too, so he has active dialogue on there on a daily basis. It's very interesting.
Yeah, he really puts in and tries to help on the forum for sure, just moving people forward. Then, so we've talked about where you'll see yourself in 5 years. For the listeners, then, what would be your best advice to them for someone looking to excel? Obviously, just you sharing today has been extremely valuable. Just hearing your story, seeing where you've come from, what you've done, and what you've managed to achieve in such a short space of time as well. Like, and then where you're going to get to. That's super inspiring. What would be the kind of advice or the parting advice that you could give to someone in order to excel?
Yeah, I would say, um, one thing it might be too general, but essentially, do what you kind of want to do to some degree. Do it on the side. So if you have a full-time job, but you have a big interest in something wild, like explore it a bit and just like dabble. And the biggest meaning to that is that everything I've kind of made out myself, even basketball in general, is not from a it's not what my family's heritage has been built. I don't have anybody in my family who played basketball. So it's about carving your own path. And that I think is also a big message I'm trying to push as well, where you know, you don't have to do what your parents do. You don't have to do what your parents tell you to do. You can, there's so many stories of people who have taken their life and have just blown it up into some crazy place or some crazy idea. And like even Alex Benayan, he was a struggling student, you know, didn't want to be a doctor or study biology. His parents wanted him to, and he decided, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to be a writer, or I'm going to go on this adventure. And those are the best stories. Those are the stories you want to listen, you want to hear about, that warms your heart or gets you inspired to do the same for yourself. So, if you're in that 9 to 5 job that you probably don't like, that's okay. Keep it going, but from 5 p.m. to 10 p.m., work on that side passion project that you might have. So that's the main message I like to leave. That you know, by all means, it would be a great day when that passion project becomes your full-time gig, like it is for me right now. But um, you never know when that day will come. But even if it never comes, it's just something that you can fuel your creativity or do exactly what you want to do, uh, you know, during your day, and still be able to have a full-time job, but not be able to take the whole day and just say, okay, what did I do today? I just worked. But no, today I worked, but I also wrote 3 pages of my new novel, or you know uh, edited my new video that I'm looking to push out, something like that. So carve your own path, I think, is the message.
Yeah, I can clearly see how that speaks to your motto and your mantra, and about who we are today is not who we can be potentially tomorrow, and just moving the needle day by day and actually taking action. Owen, it's been a pleasure. One last question. Where
Sure.
do you find courage? And we'll close with this.
I find courage in my you know in my family, mainly my mother and my grandmother. That's where, one, I know what they've been through and what they've had to do to get me to where I'm currently at. So when things hit the fan for me, I think of the struggles that they endured. And my grandmother immigrated from Italy and started 2 restaurant businesses, one in New York and one in New Jersey, and worked her butt off forever. She's still doing amazing. And for that matter, when people say, "Oh God, like I can't do this job anymore," or I can't, do this or that. I think back to, she had to do this. It was the only choice she had. She had to work these long hours running a business, um, and putting food on the table for her 3 kids. So that, when I hit a wall, I definitely find some courage in my the 2 main women in my life, my mom and my grandmother.
Bravo. Where can people find out more about you, Owen?
Unleash the Knowledge on Instagram is our main hub. And through the link in our bio, you can find all the other outlets that we offer. Email newsletter. We're on, YouTube, LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook. And soon our website will be live. The website's live right now, www.unleashtheknowledge.com. And once the new one is out, it will be the same URL. So it should be easy to find us. But Unleash the Knowledge is where you can go. Just Google it.